Hello, everyone. I hope that my dear friend Elodie Ouedraogo doesn't mind that I have my own introduction for Guillaume Schmidt, because I think it's really important that you know who we're dealing with, who we have here amongst us. Guillaume Schmidt is the co-founder of Amsterdam-based global streetwear phenomenon Patta. Patta saw the light in 2004, but it isn't just a store. It isn't just a brand. It's a platform, a movement, an ever-expanding network. Together with his best friend and co-founder Edson Sabajo, Guillaume Schmidt and his 60-headed staff have expanded Patta into a clothing line, brick and mortars in Amsterdam, London, Milan, and Lagos. There's a Patta Soundsystem that throws amazing parties, releases must-have records, and has secured collaborations with the likes of the Jimi Hendrix estate. There's Patta Academy, which is a dedicated training ground for highly talented youngsters, providing them early on with the tools and high industry connections that they'll need to succeed, opening doors that would have otherwise stayed closed. There's Patta Running Club and Patta Cycling Team, taking care of physical wellness and mental health. There are the 500,000 followers on Instagram. There's a successful European, UK and US online stores. There's the app. There's 100 wholesale outlets. There's the countless collaborations and forever selling out capsule collections with Nike, Adidas, Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, Stussy, New Balance, Mephisto, Jordan, Converse, Clarks, Steve McQueen's Small X, and Black Panther's Ministry of Culture, Emory Douglas. Then there's also Patta Magazine, as Elodie said, which was recently named one of the 10 best independent magazines in the world by the New York Times. Guillaume Schmidt has also curated exhibitions, and he is the one that seminal artist Kara Walker calls when she has a show that needs interesting side programming. But what is most important to remember is that with Patta, G and Edson have made an unmistakable impact on how streetwear and hip-hop culture evolved from an underground phenomenon to a globally dominant culture. Team Patta has transcended the success of their products and collabs by putting community, culture, and the advancement of the people around them above profit. I'm so happy he's here. Welcome, Guillaume G. Schmidt.
Thank you, thank you.
G, let's first go back a little bit so that the audience can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go back to when you were around 14 years old.
Yeah.
Describe a bit like what were you into, who were you?
When I was 14 years old, I was living in Den Bosch, which is a city, I would say, an hour from Amsterdam, somewhat more of a provincial, Burgundic city. I was living in a working class neighborhood. I was biking a little bit more than 30 minutes to get to my high school.
Wow.
I was heavily into basketball, and I was infected by the virus of hip-hop. So, yeah, that was me. And also, of course, very much impurity. So I was a headache for my parents, surely. Surely.
So, your parents, they came from Suriname?
Yeah, they came from Suriname. My parents were born in Suriname. I was born in Suriname as well. We don't come from Paramaribo, but we are Maroons. Mm-hmm. So, for those who don't know, Maroons are I would say, the runaway slave maid.
The rebels,
yeah.
The proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Saramaka, you know, Saramakans. I don't know how to say it in English because I don't really say it in English that often. But in Surinamese, we say Saramaka. Yeah.
And you moved to Holland when you were still a toddler? When
I was 2, 3 years old. Yeah. I don't have a real recurrence of that, other than that my mom always told me that I was very sick when I came here, and it was quite yeah, it was a difficult moment for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, as you said, you fell in love with hip hop, with basketball, as a lot of us did, I think, around that age, especially late 80s, early 90s. You were in a smaller town, but quickly you started to travel to the bigger cities.
Yeah, I was doing radio, pirate radio, me and some friends, because in a smaller city, I think the advantage is that you kind of work with what you have, you know? So I really learned there that it didn't really matter, like, if it was specific, like if it was hip-hop music or if it was house music or reggae music, whatever was subcultural, we kind of clicked together, you know, because like it's about strength in numbers. And in a city like that, like, you know, like if you were with 50 people that were going a little bit against what the mass was going for, then you started clicking together. So I had this pirate radio broadcast that I did with a high school friend, and we made it like a journey. We made a journey to Utrecht and to Amsterdam to get our records and get our new music. You know, everything that we heard on national radio, the Dutch masters, you know, Kees de Koning, that type of stuff. So we heard all the new records. Then there was obviously Yo MTV Raps, which was a big information thing, and the magazines. You know, I've always been very big on magazines. So that was how we got our information on what newness was. And then we just traveled to cities to get the music. You know, so I took the music back, and then that's basically what I was doing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in Amsterdam, as you said, traveling to get your records, get your music, that's also where you found your best friend and business partner till this day, Edson Sabajo, who was working at Fat Beats.
Yeah.
How quickly did that evolve into more of a, into that deep friendship, but also into that working relationship?
Well, you know what? In the beginning, it's like it's aura and energy, right? So we clicked from the moment we met each other, but like it takes time to get to know someone, you know. So as I came to the store more often, we got to know each other. We start making jokes, you know, because a lot of it, like, definitely also in Surinamese culture, but I would say also in black culture, goes through laughing and through talking, shit, or like at least like challenging each other, but always with a sense of humor. And that relationship kind of evolved, you know. And then at a certain moment, he asked me something like, "Yo, I'm looking for this sample of this record." You know what I mean? If you know the sample, I'm gonna take you out on a night in Amsterdam. You know, I was still living in Den Bosch then, and I knew the sample. You know, it was a rap record from Arsonist, and the sample that they used was from War of the Worlds. And accidentally, I knew that. It's not like I'm a super geek with that type of stuff, but I knew it. So, like, he took me out, and actually, I've been couch surfing with him for like a couple of months, like, you know, from that night out. So that's where we started our relationship, and the rest is history.
Yeah. The rest is history. I've named all these amazing accomplishments in the beginning, but it wasn't that easy, and especially those first years, even maybe the first 5 to 10 years, it was like roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. It wasn't easy to get this thing going, because right now, even walking through Antwerp, these specialist streetwear or sneaker stores, we all think it's super normal. It's like you see it everywhere. But that wasn't the case in 2004 when you started, when you needed money from the bank or from whomever. Tell us a bit about those first, because it really wasn't easy.
No, it's still not easy, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, all that glitter's not gold. But yeah, we also made a conscious choice to be who we are, you know, like we are still independent. And even till this day, there's not that much business owners that move the way we move that look like me and Edson, to be really honest. And then we're only talking about us being two brothers, like people of color, but then like we're not even women, like that's not even an involvement there. But so there's still still have a long way to go, but in the years when we started, and you can look at it as the gift and the curse, we just discussed it too, like, you know, the landscape was very different, you know, so like, I think it's a gift for us that we had the opportunity and the persistence ourselves to believe in ourselves and pave a way for ourselves, because we are still, till this day, obviously, we exist now 21 years and we're still relevant, you know, and I think that is something that you can achieve easier from our starting point than now, when there's already so much going on in the field that we are moving on. I'm not saying that it's impossible, because everything is possible, but our playing field was definitely way different. I think a lot of it, like, you know, I always compare Patta and what we've been doing, like raising a child, you know, like when we started out, we didn't really know a lot, you know, like also our motivation wasn't that, like, there was not that much romance, like all the stuff that we're talking about now, like a lot of it was also about vanity and just working with friends and be able to travel and like all those type of things. But the journey to where we are now, and that's why it's so important that people really understand, like, what's the balance between success and the other side of it is actually the stuff that's way more interesting, you know what I mean? Because the journey kind of made Patta what it is today, you know? Like, we came across a lot of people that didn't believe in what we wanted to do, a lot of people that kept doors closed for us, a lot of crabs in the barrel mentality. Like, it wasn't easy, you know? And you know, like along the way, me and Edson looked at each other and we were like, yo, you know what? Like, if we get to a place where we have a specific position or opportunities, we're gonna make sure that it's not gonna be only opportunities that matter to us. You know what I mean? We have to be different than the people that we witnessed on our journey, you know? So that's always something that really stuck with us, and I think that's now definitely a part of the essence of our company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you started out, Patta was a store with almost no accounts from the big brands. Not from Adidas, not from Nike, and specifically not the accounts that you really wanted, like what was back then, like the tier zeros and all that kind of stuff. So you started the gray parallel kind of sales, which means that you traveled abroad.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we went to everywhere when I went on vacation. You know, I went on vacation with my wife to France. And you know, like, then we just, like, wherever we just went to look for sneaker stores, and if we saw something hot that we didn't see in Amsterdam, we tried to take it with us, you know, with the little money we had. And we did that on every travel, but that was not very different from how we would normally travel, you know. We would meet people, you know, we would buy a couple of sneakers for ourselves, and that was then the hustle and the bustle, you know, that's how we did it. Yeah, and that grew.
But it's because you were moving, you were bringing those sneakers back to the store, selling them, and it was then that the Nikes and the Reeboks and the whatevers from the world saw, okay, because there were lines at the door, and that's when they started paying attention.
Yeah, it was very grassroots, you know. I think it's hip hop, you know, like it's an attitude. So it's more like, you know, like if you like, we can make something out of nothing, basically. So sometimes it's also about taste, about daring, about like just putting something on a shelf that you think is very cool or very nice, you know. And along the way, we had to learn too, because we also found out fairly quickly that with our own taste alone, like we also weren't gonna make it, you know, because like it's also in the eye of the beholder, right? So the fine balance between that was a very early. We had to come to a very early awareness of that. But end of the day, it was very important for us to make deliberate choices like, yo, we think this is hot, this is something that's gonna work, you know what I mean? And at a certain point, we came to a point that we were bringing stuff down and people were really definitely digging it, you know? So now brands started to watch like, hey, you know what? These guys and the taste that they have, they actually can recognize for us what we need to work on from our own catalog. That's basically how it works now, right? Because as fashion and streetwear, or however you want to call it, are so intertwined now, I think the recognition should always be that it starts and it ends on the street and from the street, you know what I mean? Like everything is influenced from there. And you can look at it however you want, but I think that this industry that we are all leaning on is built from there, you know? And I think that we are like a second coming of that wave, you know? Like you had the Stussies, you know, like brands like that before that, Supreme, all those, you know, and we are a second wave of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the store, then the brands followed, and the collaborations, or a few collaborations came, like Essex was one of the first ones. You guys also started a t-shirt line.
Yeah.
I recently spoke to Martine Rose, and she was also like, you know, when you start a brand, it's very important, or she thought it was very important that you focus, especially when you have no generational money or funding or whatever, that you start with one category and then do that really well. You guys started with t-shirts as well.
Well, we started with, like, Patta started as a sneaker store. We had some t-shirts from friends, like, you know, from Tokyo or from New York that had their own little t-shirt brands. We stocked that. And as with a lot of, with Pattas, like, it evolved from one thing to another. And a lot of it came from the fact that we needed it, you know, like as an organic growth. It came from the awareness that we were becoming depending on the brands that we were selling.
Yep.
As we were in the beginning, of course, doing all the gray and parallel import, you know, which is very hard work because you constantly have to travel, you constantly have to look at stock levels and blah, 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 you know, technical and very hard work. Fun, but, you know, like, it's very hard to maintain that on a day-to-day business level. So from there we grew. When we got the recognition, we started having accounts, you know, we started having the top-tier product from brands, you know, but with that also comes dependence on, like, hey, what they bring out, are they on top of their game, you know, and that, like, you know, like that construct is quite hard, especially if you're not used to business and structure, you know, like if people ask me like, yo, what advice would you give, like when you, like, you know, blah, 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 like when I'm acting up like I know everything, that's the first thing that I would say, like, you know, structure was so important and we found out quite late. So we were doing all these things and we saw these bills and all this type of stuff coming and we're like, yo, you know, we're doing this, but like end of the day, everything just goes to these brands. And if they fall, like we will fall with them, you know? And so we were like, yo, but people are actually coming to us for what we are, like what we represent and all that stuff. So we should also find ways to get our name out, you know? So that started with a t-shirt line and with started making products with the help of a friend, you know, like Vincent came into the mix, and like with him we started building on becoming a real brand, and that part of our journey.
Yeah, your creative director, Vincent van der Waal.
Yeah.
You know, I can talk with you for 3 hours and more, but we only have like 30 minutes, so I have to kind of like jump real
please.
quick.
You can find all this stuff on the internet anyway, you know what I mean? Like.
But some of it you can't, and that's what I'm going to ask now as well. So you have the Amsterdam store, but you have stores in London and Milan and Lagos.
Yeah.
That first trip, or that first big move abroad to do a brick and mortar in London, in Soho, close to Supreme, close to Stussy, close to all those kind of stores, well, which is the streetwear stores, really, and the neighborhood where everybody goes with their kids, can be cheap, but also, yeah, it can be easy to make that jump, to make that decision. How did that go? When did you think we are ready to do this?
There were a couple of factors, you know, like I always say that Patta moves where it belongs, and for Patta to really have a fertile ground to exist, we have to be in the city, you know, we have to know people. We have to be able to create with the people, you know, so that means like we need to be able to activate, we need to be able to pull people together, we need to be a place, a hub, where people love to meet each other and do stuff, you know. So we had a pretty firm base in London, and as it's closer to our other base that's quite familiar with us, New York City, we were like, oh, you know what, if we're going to make that leap, you know,
mentality, you mean?
Yeah, like if we make that leap to go somewhere else, we're going to try London first, you know, because like it looked like an operation that was a little bit more doable. That was one factor, you know. The other factor is, and that really has to do with the Dutch mentality, you know. The Dutch mentality is so terrible. We were recognized almost everywhere else in the world, but in our own stomping grounds, like in the Netherlands, you only make it when you have something outside of your. So when we opened up somewhere, when we opened up in London, now all of a sudden people were like, hey, you know what? Like these guys are really doing something. So also a little bit of our.
2016, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So. That also had a little bit to do with like, oh, you know what, we'll show them. You know, so a little bit of that attitude was in there as well. And yeah, we like after that experience we kept growing into like Milan, same type of reasoning. And then the last store that we opened was obviously Lagos, which was a big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about that, the opening in Lagos, because it's a different kind of model than from the more well-known model of just having the brick and mortar, the chapter store in a big city. Tell us a little bit about how different it is doing business in Lagos and opening a store there, and how you guys put that together, because it's really thoughtful process as well.
Yeah, we've been going to Lagos for quite some years before we opened up there, because as you know, like we are not imperialistic, you know. We read books, we know how a lot of this stuff that we are dealing with in the world, like where that came from, and we definitely, although we have to maneuver in it, don't want to be part of the system or the part of holding in the system as it is. So if we wanted to do something in Lagos, first of all, as in the other city, it had to be real. So we had to know people, we had to be able to do real stuff over there. But what was also very important, and specifically for me and Edson as children of the diaspora, in a sense, like the place where we are now living, or where we are from, we are actually not really from, you know what I mean? And like holding that in the back of our minds, going and opening up the store in Africa was such a pinnacle moment for us, for the story of Patta and the story of what we are doing. So also when we went there, and like the other Patta stores, the London and the Milan store are fully owned by me and Edson. But when we opened up in Africa, we just wanted to make sure that there was ownership from their side as well, you know. So that construct is different than the other constructs that we have. So another 50% of that store is by owners from Nigeria, who are also doing really great things. Like you have Jomi, who is an owner of a skateboard brand called WAF. He's doing very well. Then you have Lanre. He's in the music business and doing really great stuff with like all the Afrobeat music that we are all familiar with. You know, he's very close with people like Thames, Burna Boy, Odumodu Black, and the list goes on. And then you have Nifemi Mbello, who is an amazing designer who just like got a recognition from Loewe, and also already won a U-Blow prize and all that type of stuff. So they're all doing their stuff, and it's not like we came there to help and blah, 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 but it was a really balanced collaboration that we are now trying to build out to something greater than what it is.
Yeah, you told me that the flavor over there is also really great, that whenever you now ask for, or when you ask for images or a campaign or whatever, that whatever comes back
everything is amazing, you know, like
better than what comes from London.
There's not a lot of times that we can just like pack a box and just send it and let's see what comes back, you know. Like we tried it a couple of times. Sometimes it barely worked out. A lot of times it was, oh Lord, why did we do it? But with Legos, like whatever we do, whoever we, like, you know, like it always comes back with so much flavor. Mm-hmm. And we went there like 5 years ago, for 5 or 6 years ago for the first time. And streetwear was a different thing there. Like it was existing, and it was like people were doing their thing. But it wasn't like it was like something that like was big. But like you came a year later and it was already like, oh wow, like damn, all right. And then 3 years later it was like, damn, they are just going like, and there's so much flavor because the way they mix and use and like, you know, it's traditional, like there's so much in it that I'm always blown away when I'm there and I'm just checking the style, you know. Style is just, it's crazy.
That's so great that you get to be inspired as well, that you can just sit back and take it all in.
You go to Africa, Africa is a different thing, you know, like, you know, like that was really one of the big eye-openers of my life, just going to Africa. Like, I've been in Africa, I went to Morocco, I went to South Africa, you know, but I'd never been in Black Africa, if I can call it that way. And just like, you know, just being there and also witnessing like also like your preconceptions, you know, like even even
all
as
the
a,
things that we've been taught.
Even as a black
imagery,
man, you know, I was like, damn, yo, like it's not really what you think it would be, you know, like and that was a really big moment for me. Like I came home loaded, like you know, like loaded. Like my first time coming back from New York City was also like another big moment for me. Yeah.
We have to quickly talk about the really big collaboration and big release that is coming up, which is the Nike Patta Wave, the Air Max 90. You're fully decked out in it, which is kind of like a premiere to see this. There's a few pictures on Instagram, but nobody's seen this live except from a few people. This is a really coveted collaboration again, because the Wave was already a really big success in 2022, I think it was, the first 21.
Yeah.
And now it's on an AM90. They're amazing. I know I'm getting my package, so...
You hooked up.
I'm hooked up. The Wave stands, because it's never just about product for you, and the Wave, which is visible in the shoe, stands for something that's really close to my heart as well. It's kind of like the ups and downs of life, the ups and downs of a full career, the ups and downs of being in community with people, of doing things together. Tell me a bit about what it means to you to be able to keep this going, and about the people that you collaborate with.
Yeah, it's just also like, you know, a state of mind. Like I want Patta to be so much more than about product. You know, like at the end of the day, the product is more a means to an end. It has to support the ID, you know, and I want the name to stand for something that's more than product. And I want to do it in a real way. You know, I'm like, when you talk about things like buzzword things, community, diversity, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
you know, we sing the song, we dance along, and when you talk about those type of things, a lot of the times, like even when I talk to Edson or the people around me about it, it's like, you know, like the community thing and all that stuff, it's not that interesting to us, or like it's something that we are really like, yo, we really, because it's more like about talking about yourself, kind of, you know, like the community, da, da, da. So we really like to be busy with culture, you know,
Yeah.
because like a decent and a healthy community really subtracts their energy from a healthy culture.
Yeah, and gives back to it as well.
Yes, of course, and it has to give back. You cannot only take, you
Nope.
know, like that's something that's so important
Can't
to
be
us.
greedy.
Like you can't be greedy, you know, like you can't, like that's one of the worst things in the world. So that state of mind we try to always push in, specifically the bigger projects that we have. We see that as an opportunity to put back or to help or to, like, you know, to work with people. So this wave, you know, this expression and what it means to us. Like this time we really wanted to deep dive on music. So, like as you said in your opening words, like we created records before, but we never really did that with Nike, and now we actually created like music to go with this campaign. We made a 12-inch to go with it. We made original music with a producer from the US and with bigger artists from Africa, from Nigeria to be specific, and this upcoming artist from London. Like, you know, she's upcoming. Probably not a lot of people will know her now, but that's what we want to do. You know, we want to have all types of angles. We don't want to be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
So we're not only going to work with people that have the biggest Instagram accounts or la da 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 da. We want to make sure that it's 360 fitting to the Patta way of doing things. So no, I'm super proud.
Yeah, it's
gonna be
amazing. Do we
sick.
know when it's coming out?
Yes, of course. Like it would be
'Cause it's a
really, it would be a
global release?
disaster if
Yeah.
I wouldn't. No, it's like the first drop is going to be on the 20th of June, and then the second drop is going to be on the 27th. And before that, we're going to show some of the videos that are amazing. Belgian director worked on, called Belogi.
Yep.
And yeah, it's amazing piece of work.
Something to look out for.
For sure.
Backstage, they're going like.
Okay, round
So
up,
we have
round up.
I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you.
Say hi to Edson for me. And,
I will.
Patta.nl, if you want to know more, the whole history is there. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Bye.